This is Journey Maps, where newcomer voices drive change. This podcast is brought to you by Journeys to Active Citizenship. Journeys to Active Citizenship is a collaboration between Ontario Council of Agencies Serving Immigrants and North York Community House and is funded by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. I am Rustam Zadran, the Program Coordinator for Journeys to Active Citizenship Project, and I will be your host. Newcomers bring rich experiences, resilience, and a strong commitment to their communities, yet their civic engagement often goes unrecognized. Through storytelling, we highlight lived experiences, community values, and the power of civic participation in building an inclusive society. Whether you're a newcomer, advocate, educator, policymaker, or an ally, this podcast is for you. Join us as we share inspiring journeys and shape a more equitable future, one story at a time. In this episode, we speak with Mandana Attar Zadeh, whose journey from Iran to Canada in 2006 was marked by uncertainty, adaptation, and resilience. Facing emotional and professional challenges, Mandana navigated a new life, rediscovered her purpose, and built a career in community engagement. She's currently working as Manager of Community Development at North York Community House. From overcoming personal hardships to advocating for mental health and social inclusion, Mandana shares how volunteering, storytelling, and connection shaped her journey. Her story highlights the importance of balancing cultural identity, embracing change, and finding belonging in a new home. Welcome, Mandana, to Journey Maps podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Today, we're diving into your inspiring journey as a newcomer to Canada. Let's start by going back to the very beginning. How did your initial expectation of life in Canada compare to the reality you faced?
To be honest, I came here with not a lot of expectation. I was ready a little bit for challenge, and I know things gonna change and it's probably going to be tough at the beginning. But I would say it was tougher than what I thought it would be. I wasn't ready for that, and something that was interesting for me is that I absolutely enjoyed working in Canada. Even the very first job that I had was a retail job. Very different from my background, which was a medical doctor, but I still enjoyed working in the environment. I liked the workplace culture. I really liked that. But the other thing that kind of unpleasantly surprised me was, I don't know how to phrase it. Maybe I should say capitalism or materialism in here, like how much people just shopped constantly. I was working on retail, and say every season they buy new makeup, they buy new clothes. This is something we didn't really have back home. We within the culture of being like saving and keeping things, maintaining things, repair. I didn't find that culture here. That really surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to hear how our expectation can shift once you're actually on the ground.
Absolutely.
It sounds like those early days were a big adjustment.
They were, I can say.
What were the biggest challenges you encountered when starting from scratch in a new country?
There was lots of challenges. Coming to a new country, it basically turns your life upside down. So, you come out of your comfort zone, you lose your known career, your network, you separate from your family, from your friends, you lose your source of income, and then you have to figure out what you're going to do in the new country. So there were all kind of challenges, I would say, employment, financial, relationship. And then I came here with my husband at the time, but then he had to go back home to take care of the business he had and sort out things before he come and join me like on a permanent basis. So I had to live on my own for the first time. And that was very difficult for me because I was not used to it. I just grew up in my family. I was living with them, and then I got married, living with my husband at the time. And so it was a totally new experience living on my own, and was emotionally very difficult for me. So I would say, if I want to say what was the most difficult, I would say that emotional part was really challenging. I remember I was crying in the subway almost every single day when I went to the work downtown Toronto. So yeah, that was the most important and the biggest challenge, I can call it.
Yeah, that must have been incredibly tough. But it seems like those challenges really shaped who you are today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I can say, like I would say at least I can call 10, 12 trauma and, challenges, major challenges in life that I've gone through. But I would say at least 7, 8 of them are related to my immigration. So certainly it made me to the person, shaped me to the person that I am today.
Yeah, definitely. I had similar experience as well when I first immigrated when I was 16 to the United States. For the first month, I was really homesick and I cried a lot. And I'll call my parents every other day. Even at that time, this was a long time ago, so we didn't have access to internet. But I used to buy. I don't know if you guys remember calling card. So I used to use the calling cards and call my parents. But the initial months were really tough. So I can agree with you. Moving to a new country often comes with its fair share of funny misunderstandings. Do you have any amusing or memorable stories from your earlier days in Canada?
Yes, actually I do. I remember my language ability was good when I came here. I got the benchmark 7 when I went to one of these YMCA to assess my language ability. But I could read and I could speak, but my hearing, like listening, was different. It's a totally different skill. So I really had a hard time to understand what people are saying to me. So I remember I had a job as I was a secretary, like an office administrator in a dentist office in my first few months in Canada, first year in Canada. And specifically listening and understanding people on the phone was a big challenge for me. So I remember this person called me and wanted to book an appointment and asked, "What's your name?" And the person said, wait. And I said, "I can't wait, sir. I have clients here. I have to really book your appointment. Can you please tell me your name?" He was, wait. And he kept saying, wait. And I said, what's going on? And finally, I got really angry. He said, "Sir, I really need your name." I said, "My name is Wade." So I remember that was one of the funny mistakes. And the other one was also, the way you say, you want to recommend someone to do something, say, "I would have done that," which means that you should do this, right? So I thought it means the person is going to do that. So I remember one of my managers said, I would do that. So, okay, the manager is going to take care of this part, and it means that I should do that. Then I realized I messed up and I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So yeah, some funny mistakes like that.
Yeah. I mean, those moments are always the most memorable. It's great to be able to laugh about them now. I had similar, but not similar that way. But for me, the culture of tipping was something very new. So the first day in the States, I went to barbershop, and once the barber finished cutting my hair, I just walked out. My host family was with me, and they started staring at me. I was like, "Why are they staring at me?" And then they're like, "Oh, Muhammad, and no, it's nice to leave some change." And I was like, why should I do that? And there's like, "Oh, it's a culture, when you go someplace, you go to barber, they cut your hair, and then you have to tip." So I was introduced to the culture of tipping in that moment. So
Wow.
Starting a new life can be overwhelming, but it can also open up opportunities to connect and build relationships. Let's talk about how these early experiences shaped your passion for community involvement. Can you elaborate on how your passion for community work developed? Was there a specific moment that sparked this interest?
Speaking about my passion for community work, I think this started long time before I came to Canada, when I was back home in Iran. Because I think I was a very sensitive person since I was a child, and the lack of justice, social justice, always bothered me. So when I looked around, when I look back to my early years in school, I was someone who always tried to bring equitable opportunities for everyone, and that wasn't the culture back home in Iran. There was a lot of class differences. There was all kind of differences, gender differences, class differences, which was kind of acknowledged and celebrated even in somehow, and there was no problem with lack of justice. It wasn't a big thing there. So I think that always bothered me, and I was always looking for a way to address these inequities, this lack of social justice and justice generally around me. And then my experience becoming a medical doctor, that was my very early career. When I was dealing with patients, one thing I learned from my experience on the ground doing the medical work on the ground was that most of the illnesses, both physical and mental, they come from problems in the society. Lack of access to equal opportunities, to education, gender inequalities, socio-economic, class inequalities, everything that created the, mental and physical problem for people. And then they come and seek the solution in physician's office. And as a physician, Western trained physician, I was trying to give them medication, which I didn't find that helpful because the root cause of ill health wasn't there. It was not happening in their body. It was happening somewhere in society, and it was affecting their body. So that also was very interesting for me. If I could go back, do something at the community and society level to bring the justice back. I think those were the very initial inspiration I had, although I couldn't really phrase them and name them the way I do at this point. But when I came to Canada, encountering people from all walks of life with different background, different experiences, the diversity that we face in Canada, Toronto, and listening to those people's stories, it always inspired me. What immigrants went through, specifically coming from countries that were war zones and political oppression or conflicts was happening, how resilient they were when they came and how they thrived and survived. I listened to those stories and I learned a lot, and I kind of was inspired to work more with people in a community level to help them to become leader in their own life and bring more social justice around them. I think that was one of my inspiration. I can't think of a very special moment, but I think the moments that I was listening to everyone's stories, they all inspired me and shaped me to the career I have right now.
That's such an inspiring story. It really shows how one's experience can lead to a lifelong passion. And I can agree with you that most of the refugees and immigrants that I have talked to, they come with complexities of issues, as you earlier mentioned, whether it's war. Mostly from my experience has been war. A lot of friends of mine have immigrated to Canada because of war, whether they're Afghan or Palestinian or people from other region. How did your earlier volunteer experiences shape your understanding of community engagement in Canada?
I think those early volunteer experiences, they really helped me a lot to understand, different people in Canadian society. And we do have, as I think I mentioned that before, we do really have a very wide, diverse range of people. You live in Toronto, you see people from all across the world. More than 200 languages are spoken here. So it's really interesting to learn the stories of those people, learn about their background, their cultural heritage, the way they interact, their values. I think that volunteering experience helped me to do that because I did volunteer in many places, a lot of social service agencies, and based on what their mandate was, if they were working with mental health or they were working with cultural specific like ethnicity or background, For example, I was working with Iranian Canadian social service providers network, and this was a network of service providers who were working with over 50 agencies across Toronto with all kind of mandate: housing, youth services, homelessness, shelter, women's services, food security, everything. So that really gave me very wide understanding of the issues in the field. And also when I was working in different agencies, specifically if I had frontline work, I remember my first volunteering was I was volunteering for a community health center in east side of Toronto. It was South Riverdale, I think. That was the area. And doing some frontline work, doing workshops for their catchment area and for people they were covering. There are a lot of people were dealing with addiction and homelessness and women's shelter. So I went to those places and just learning about this different population, and they were very diverse range of population in those workshops. So learning about different people, their problem, their background, their heritage, it really helped me to understand community engagement. And the one principle that we have in our work is to meet people where they are at. If you work with someone who is in dealing with addiction, you don't sit in your office and ask them to come to your office. You have to go and meet them in the street where they are, or they belong, if you're working with women in the street or shelters. So that really helped me to understand the basis of community work and get an understanding about different diversity of people in Canada, Toronto specifically.
I mean, it's amazing how those early connections can have such a lasting impact on how you view community involvement. And it's very courageous of you to get involved on certain issues, as you mentioned, such as addiction, mental health, and it requires a lot of courage, because not a lot of people can get involved in those kind of work, because you have to be in the right state of mind yourself and also expose yourself to certain issues. So I think that's amazing that you were able to do that.
Thank you. I didn't consider myself courageous at those times. But I guess a quality about me is that, I feel the fear really immensely, but I still do it regardless. I think and that's something I really work with the people, the community when I work with them. I said the best way to deal with your fear is to just run right into it after your risk assessment, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. I always found, like in my experience when I was in the States, as an exchange student, I did community work. For me, it was different because I did volunteer work. And for me, volunteer work sort of expanded my understanding of the American society in itself and how they viewed us, because I came from Afghanistan as an exchange student. So I volunteered like in fairs during Christmas. So I had a good understanding of the American culture, and also certain misunderstandings that I had about them, those were eliminated once I got involved in the community and started interacting with people. At the same time, they also learned certain things about me, the misunderstandings that they had specifically about like Muslims and people coming from Afghanistan. And this was like in 2005, so it wasn't far from September 11. So while I did volunteer work, it helped me to understand their community, but also sort of I was able to share something about my community and my culture and my background. So yeah, I think it's very important to do those type of work and volunteering and community involvement. It sounds like your community work evolved from those early volunteering experiences. Let's talk more about how volunteering shaped your connection and opportunities in Canada. Volunteering played a significant role in your journey. How did these volunteer opportunities help you connect with the broader community?
I think I elaborate a little bit on that in the previous question. I think just interacting with people from all walks of life, coming from different ethnic background, different countries, or born and raised in Canada. I think I was really interacting with a very wide range of different people, and learning about them, about the way they think, the way they deal with their day-to-day problem, what kind of challenges and problems they have, and how it has been affected by where they are coming from. People who are coming from war-torn zone, or coming with countries with political oppression, those that came as a refugee, certainly they have lots of trauma because of that. So that helps, that helps to understand how they interact. They might have signs of post-traumatic stress disorder or long-term trauma, and even myself, coming from a country that was going through the war 8 years when I was a child, I know I have a lot of that trauma. Just being, the city I wasn't directly in the war zone, but we were bombed, and we were, rockets. They send us rocket very often. We had this night. We went under the staircase, and all those came family. Everyone was scared. All the neighborhood came together. So I remember all those memories, and dealing with different people. I think it taught me a little bit about what affects people based on the background, the past, where they are coming from, and also what can be helpful in helping them to become leaders. That's my passion: empowering people and community to take lead and take control of their life. What can be helpful in terms of helping them to claim that leadership, to stand up to that role, and also in terms of connection. I think certainly just meeting all different kind of staff and workers in social service agencies, and building those network and connection, learning from them. Building a network that could help me professionally later on to get to my first job and future jobs, and also learning a lot from them. I think that really contributed to my experience coming to community engagement and community development.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible how much volunteering can build bridges in ways we don't always expect. You may have answered this question already. How do you believe volunteering has impacted your personal and professional growth? I know you provided some information, but I would like to hear if you can elaborate on it furthermore.
Sure. I think in terms of the professional, I did elaborate quite a bit. I think building those networks, connecting, getting to know workers and learning from them how they do their job, how they deal with different problems, and also making myself known to them. So if, in future, if something come as a job or I can get reference from them, that was quite helpful for me to build my professional network. But in terms of personal development, I would say all that volunteering really, really contributed immensely to my personal growth, because, I'm reflecting and checking on myself, and journaling has been something that I've done on a regular basis since very early on. Even before I come to Canada, I started, going to therapy. So I'm used to journaling, writing, reflecting. I think everything that I dealt with, I also have some notes from my very early on experience. I wrote a little bit. What I learned, the way how people deal with things differently. For example, someone who has been raised in a country like Canada, is a Western country, they probably don't have the kind of trauma that we had there. They might have different traumas, and I've seen that, but they didn't have the kind of traumas that we didn't have. How they deal with things from a more place of feeling safe, at least in the community level, or I would say trust. The trust that we unfortunately, I would say in Middle East we're missing because of all the history of, I would say, invasion and betrayal and being occupied. Well, I think that trust has been missing, and you see when people trust each other, how things work differently, and it's really interesting to reflect on that. That's just one example, and take that in your personal way of interacting. Even like when you look, okay, how I show up for my friend, how I trust my friend, what kind of trust do they have in me, and how we can change this dynamic. So I think that really contributed a lot to my personal growth. I've always, and it's a non-stop, continue, lifelong journey. I always reflect on what I see, what I observe, and I could say it really changed the way I learn, I interact with other people, I listen, I show up for other people, and the expectation that I have from the others. I think it has really significantly impacted my way of dealing with life for myself personally.
It's amazing how much volunteering can contribute to personal growth, but I imagine it must have been difficult to balance that with your other responsibilities. Let's dive into how you manage that. Balancing multiple jobs while volunteering must have been challenging. What strategies did you use to manage your time and energy?
To be quite honest, it can be very overwhelming at the beginning, especially if you have a passion, you wanted to contribute and you want to also learn for your future. So you go and volunteer, but at the same time, you have to make the ends meet. And it has always been a challenge for a newcomer. I think it's more challenging even these days with, increased cost of living and everything else that's going on. But it has been a challenge. I think it has taken me quite a few years to kind of master that. Still, sometimes I have to learn new strategies and new techniques. But what I would say has helped me is to really learn to prioritize what is important for me. Like just sit and maybe on a Sunday evening when there's a little bit more calm and quiet, think about your week. So when you look at your calendar, your personal life, your profession, so much on it, and what is a priority. So prioritize those things, and there are always a lot of things that we can even not do or delegate to others if we are not the best person or the only person that can do those things. So I think learning to delegate, learning to not do things that are not absolutely important. Sometimes things, they seem urgent, but they are not important. We can put a lot of those things, just not do it. To be honest, they take up 70 to 80% of our time if we don't pay attention. So just putting those things aside and not doing that, I think that's very, very important. And keeping your mental focus on, okay, what is the most important thing that I have to do today? For example, when I came here today, I knew this podcast is the most important thing I have to do for the day. So I scheduled my day around that. I had a few things. I tried to do it early morning, give myself some time to just be mentally ready to come here. And also, I would say self-care, which is sometimes that's also not easy as a newcomer because you have to work few jobs at the same time. But I would say trying to get as much self-care, just maybe some quiet, some me time, stay connected with friends. It's not easy to maintain in relationship with friends at the beginning. You have jobs that are not stable. They give you shift. On the go, you can't even predict your schedule next weekend, or you are available, you're not available. But trying your best to stay connected, because I think those relationships, they energize you and keep you going for different things. I think those are some of the techniques that I use, and I keep going and learning as I move forward.
That's some great advice. Time management is such a challenge, especially when you're passionate about multiple things. I do have a point about volunteering, especially when it comes to newcomers and immigrants. It is tough. You may agree at the current situation, the financial situation people are going through. For most like newcomers and immigrants, a lot of them that have families, it's challenging when I ask them, like, would you like to do volunteer, and they have to meet the basic necessities. They have to meet those provide shelter, and also employment. So they have to acquire that first, and they have to be at a certain trajectory where they feel comfortable financially in order to engage with the community, whether it's through volunteer work or through other means. And I think for a lot of them, it's getting harder, especially at the current situation. What are your thoughts about that?
I do acknowledge that it's getting harder. Yeah, I think the years that I came here 18 years ago, although it was challenging, I don't think it was as challenging as it is right now. So I can totally acknowledge the challenge that's there. But this is what I think. I think a lot of the time that the jobs that newcomers do at the beginning, the first few years, is a lot of them are jobs that are not exactly matched with their, skills and education. Maybe we call them survival job. And if they just want to sink themselves in those survival jobs, they can't get any time to come out and do something different. So I think even allocating maybe 1 hour or 2 hours per week or a few hours per month or something like that to a volunteer opportunity that can open up new networks, new skills, new connection to them to maybe even change that survival job. It might be helpful for them. I remember I was working in 3 retail places in the first few months that I came to Canada. And then they did take time to go and volunteer for organization that I find more relevant and more aligned with my, mission and what I wanted to do. And when I did that, I remember at some point I didn't take more than certain hours from one of my retail jobs because I knew I won't have time to go and volunteer. So my manager, why don't you take more shift? I need you more. And I tried to make it. You guys say, sorry, I can't afford to work here long because you just pay me minimum wage. She was like, you can't afford to work here? Yeah, because I have to go get paid better. So like just looking at it from a different perspective, that this is a stepping stone for you to maybe even find something that is, more relevant, pays you more. So you have more, you can get more with less hours of work and doing more meaningful work. That's one way of approaching it. And then it's from the spiritual perspective that I always, use in my life, is that if you give, the universe gives back to you. It just, when you open up that time and trust universe and that you will be provided and give that service, just maybe I say few hours per month. Doesn't have to be a lot of time, right? You can trust that universe gives back to you. So that's another perspective that I personally always considered in my work.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think, a lot of newcomers and refugees do come with a lot of, skills and talent. And unfortunately, when they come to Canada, despite years of experience back home and despite their knowledge and skills, it's not sort of like translated into Canadian society. It's not accepted. So volunteering could be like the best way to approach or to find a job in their field of interest. And I know I've seen a lot of people that were able to do so, that were able to get a job in their field of interest, whatever they were doing back home, by just volunteering. A few of them are my friends. But also I've heard stories of people who were willing to do volunteer work, but you know how volunteering in the sector has become so sort of like, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It's like actually like applying for a job in itself.
I know, it's very complicated. Can be very
it's
complicated.
Very complicated and very like they make it super competitive. I've heard people that were discouraged by just the way the process was.
Yes, that's absolutely can be a barrier. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I hope people that will be hearing our podcast, and especially the settlement organization and community organization, hopefully they can bring some changes to that, because I know a lot of people are interested to volunteer, and I hope we can eliminate this barrier. How did you stay motivated during this period of intense work and volunteering?
That's a really good question, because at some points you can feel really, really tired and down. It's not easy. I remember I felt for the first 2 years of living in Canada, I felt I've never taken off my shoes because it was like I left around, my retail job started at 10 downtown Toronto, so I had to leave around 8 to get downtown for 10 to start my job, and the first job in the morning, and then travel to another location to do the second job, and they close at like 10 or 11 p.m. and I was the last one that had to close the store. And by the time I was home, it was already midnight. And then I had to call back home my ex-husband because of the time difference. It was their morning. And be on the phone for another an hour and a half. So I went to bed like maybe 2 or 3. And then get up at 7 again to go to. And I was working 7 days a week. The only time I had off was Sunday evening. After 5 p.m. I had off. That was the only time off I had. I had no other days off. So that's how I felt. Like I never removed my shoes in the first year. So it can be quite challenging. But I think what kept me really going was, first of all, was my passion for what I wanted to do. I wanted to be active in the society level, and that social justice that I spoke about. That I think that really warmed my heart and, reminded me of why I'm here. And then again, self-care and trying to connect with friends and network. I was lucky to have some family members, had some friends here, and I built new relationship and new friendship. I think even getting together with them even once a month, it really helped me to stay motivated, feel good, get a little bit to come out of the work mood and keep myself going. Plus I think, spiritual belief, hope that things will change, things will come my way. I think that's something that really, really significantly helped me.
It sounds like your motivation came from a deep sense of purpose. That's powerful. Managing so much can easily take a toll. I've noticed that mental health has become a focus in your work. What drew you to this area? How did you think mental health projects contributed to community well-being?
I think my interest to mental health came from my personal experience. I come from a family that had very strong, I would say, genes history in mental illness. They a very wide range of mental illness that my first and extended member of family have gone through. So I've been observing and seeing that, and I guess I have strong genes as well, and I also grew up in that environment. So just seeing it in my day-to-day life, and it was like I felt it's like a beast that it will come and take me at one day, and I have to get ready to fight that beast. That's exactly what I felt about mental health, mental illness. I think I was quite thinking about it and getting myself prepared very, very early in my life. And I started going to counseling. I actually had a very low mood. I remember my first years of career back in Iran, even before I come to Canada, it was very difficult for me to deal with challenges in workplace. I was crying every day, brought work problem home. I couldn't sleep some nights. It was overwork. I think that those years I started going to counseling and started learning some skill reading, reading self-help books, connecting with different spiritual practices, started strengthening myself in different ways. And I think that stayed a very important theme because I was just looking at the experience of my family members going through the challenges they had. We had suicide in family, we had depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, all kind of, you just name it. And anxiety as well, clinical anxiety. And I personally experienced clinical anxiety as well as very mild depression first year I was in Canada. I think I mentioned I was crying every day. So I find myself at almost close to the end of my first year in Canada. When I look at my pictures those days, I didn't know a smile. I always smile in pictures, and I can't see a smile. And I remember when someone wanted to take a photo, I was thinking, how people smile. I couldn't even I was trying to open my lips to smile, but I couldn't. That's exactly the feeling of depression I felt. So I realized I have to do something for myself. So I brought all the learning that I had across, along the years, brought it together. I had a few days, almost a week that I sat with myself towards the end of that year to really bring things, my inner resources and all the, things that, so I use music, I use many techniques. I think I kind of treated my own depression in that week. It took me a few more months to fully come back to my normal mood, but I think the recovery and the healing started in that week. So that was something, and then I looked at the impact of mental health on everything you do in your life, no matter you are an immigrant or you are not an immigrant, but specifically if you are an immigrant, because there is this whole lot of things you have to get done. If you don't have that mental energy, who is going to do that for you, right? And I looked at my own challenges. So I think that's where I found the importance of mental health. If you have good physical and mental health, you go look for a job, you make connection, you build connection, you do things. But if you don't have that resource, it's very difficult. Where are you going to start, right? So I do place a very important role on the keeping ourselves mentally well, and it's a tape. I talk about mental health a lot. Mental wellness is a spectrum. It's a spectrum. You can say you never 100%, but there is a certain level. If you go below that, you can consider yourself in the tape to more closer to mental illness. If you go above that point, you're more closer to mental wellness, and you can during our life we move. Yeah, exactly, along that spectrum. Certain things can bring us down, and it's our role to bring ourselves up, or certain things can make us happy, take us a little bit further. So it's for us, it's a long, I would say, lifelong journey to keep ourselves mentally well. But there are things in the society, there are foundation in the society, specifically how you invest in the first 5 years of childhood. It really helps. So I think that I find that a very important passion for myself to work on, to bringing like more resources to families, to mothers, to very young children, to build that 5 years as much as possible. Certain things come from family or from genes. We can't do those parts, but the part that we can do, I think that will help. And also understanding the role of trauma that a lot of newcomers or refugees bring from the countries that they come because of all the, again, war and political conflict and other traumas that they've gone through. Understanding that what role can contribute in holding them back, in finding a job, in kind of contributing to the society. Those are the things that we have to be mindful of.
I definitely agree with you. It seems like I'm not sure if it's common in the Iranian and Persian community, but like within like Afghan community, I've had a conversation with a lot of newcomers and immigrants who have recently immigrated to Canada or have been living here for the past 10 to 15 or 20 years. And a lot of folks that I talk to, just in personal conversations, they say they have experienced them. Most of them have experienced, especially anxiety, depression, and I don't know what it is. Whenever they move to like a Western country, I'm not sure if it's because we live in such a sort of like a societal and communal environment back home, that when they come to a Western country, which is like, it is communal, it's individualistic, but it's not communal in a sense how it is communal back home, So most of them, they face, mental health issues. And I don't think so. It's certain. I mean, certainly there is element of like, somebody, in your family being, having that, and they have passed it on to you. But I think most of it is situational. You leave your country and you leave your community, you come to a new place, everything is new, you have to start from scratch, people are busy, they don't meet each other. So I think those things, I believe, definitely trigger mental health or health issues.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And I think this is, when I do my mental health work with, I do my coaching and I also with community. As you said, all those things, if people come from a communal, more of community or society, they come to an individualistic society that everyone is supposed to be independent and strong and take care of their life. But what if you don't have that resources? What if you need help? Like a lot of people need help, right? And then with the culture of isolation and living, just in separate unit, even family members, you see, this is very different from the way we raised back home. So I think those factors can really affect person mental, especially when you are a newcomer and it takes a journey to understand what's going on and hopefully awaken the resources that you have inside you. That also takes a while, right? But if we learn that, if we master how to awaken our resources inside, how to connect, how to find meaning in other things in life, how to focus on positive, those are the skills and resources that can help us along the life. Because in life there are always going to be, no matter you immigrate, don't immigrate, there are going to be things that are going to bring you down. As we get older, we lose family member, our health goes down. There are all new issues. It's not going to be less issues. It's going to be more issues as we move along the life spectrum. So we have to be equipped with those skills to be able to keep ourselves up no matter what happens to us. That's the foundation of resiliency, right? So that's something I think is good for immigrant to learn that skill.
Yeah, no, those are amazing tips that you have shared and experiences. How does your personal experience with mental health inform your approach to community work?
I think, from just looking at myself and my family and, the country that we came from and what kind of trauma it created in us and also other countries in the same region that I was coming from, I can imagine that a lot of people who are here as immigrants, they come with those kind of trauma. Immigration is a trauma on its own. It is a trauma, no matter what you bring from the past, right? So being mindful of signs of trauma, it affects you in many different ways. Your learning ability decreases when you're dealing with trauma, your focus, your concentration, your reaction to things. So just being mindful of working with people, even no matter if they're my staff or they're community members that I'm working with, just being mindful that they might have been affected with some sort of these traumas, or even understanding of certain like light neurological condition, like I would say for people who are neurodiverse, being in different spectrum, different places in the spectrum of neurodiversity, just being mindful of that. That has helped me to understand. For example, if someone forgets an appointment they have with me, I don't take it personal. I understand, are they good at keeping track? Like, do they need some help in this area? So just try to always be open and mindful of there might be some background issues that they might not talk about or might not even be aware of what's going on with them. So that informs my approach in working with my staff, with everyone in the community, as well as understanding the trust issues. Sometimes that comes with working with community. Building trust is a huge step. No matter how good you are or how good you do your work, you have to give some time to build trust with different communities. That's a very fundamental thing in community development. So these are some of examples of how I'm mindful of people might be dealing with traumas and different aspects of mental health issues in their day-to-day life.
Your focus on mental health is so vital. I imagine that along with mental health, your identity has also played a significant role in your journey. How has your dual identity as an Iranian Canadian influenced your work in community engagement?
That's a really good and interesting question. I think both aspects of identity. When I came here, when I started living in Canada, I identified myself as an Iranian because almost all of my life, I lived in Iran before I came here. So I think that identity gave me certain characteristics, certain values that those values, I've kept a lot of those values. I actually evaluated them carefully in my first years interacting with different culture. And I really found the ones that I really, really appreciate and wanted to stick to it and keep it as, I move forward in my immigration journey. So I think those are some of the values that they have helped me in my community development work. For example, if I want to describe certain qualities of Iranian people, I would say they are into hospitality and they like hosting people and they're really, really good hosts. I think that helped me in my community work. I was very, even the type of food I ordered, make sure it's approachable by everyone, offered food. Those are the things that I learned from my culture, and this created a very warm environment in any meeting we had, any community event we had. And I think that was something helped people because people, they felt welcome by us, by our team, by me. And that really helped in them, warming up, opening up to me and start building that trust. Also, the other, some other values that I found in Iranians are very brave. And I learned that when I deal with, other parts of the country, they're very brave. When you look at the new movement in Iran, young girls, 17, 18, 16-year-old with no gun, they just empty-handed go in front of the military forces and let them kill, and they claim their freedom of what they wear, and that's really brave, right? I haven't seen that kind of bravery often. So I would say, I think that's in our blood. And as I said, I never considered myself a brave person. But then I looked at some of the things and said, well, probably that part of it is in me as well. Like I've been affected by, maybe I'm not as brave as those girls yet. But, there's some elements of that have touched me. And also, they always searching for freedom. They really have a high value on freedom. So I think these are the values that brought me to social justice work and to even community work. Maybe those values were big values for me, very important values for me. So these are some examples of how my identity defined, what I've learned from growing up in that society, in that country has affected me. And then my new identity that I formed after, all the years living in here and different interaction and encounters that I had with different people from different countries, born and raised in Canada, born and raised somewhere else and came here. I think I learned different things. One thing I can learn here is being assertive. In Iran, we are more like kind and warm and nice than assertive. And sometimes you have to be assertive even to stay kind, right? Because if you constantly just say yes to everyone and don't assert your values, your boundaries, after a while you get angry and upset. That's very normal. So you can't stay kind anymore, right? So I would say like learning how to be assertive, how to set boundaries, how to trust people, like from the beginning. Might be a little bit risky at the beginning because we come from that long history of not being able to trust because everyone invaded us, betrayed us, right? But those are the things that I think I've learned here, and I practice it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of risk to come out of my comfort zone and do those things, but it certainly has helped me in both personally and also in my career working with community and being in community development.
Yeah, it's great to see how embracing both sides of your identity has strengthened your work and also has developed your personality. You talked about being assertive. I was in a similar situation. I wasn't that assertive, as you earlier said. Afghan and Iranian culture are very similar. We don't say things as it is most of the time, and I don't know. And then it comes from maybe, I don't know, if we are in public, I think it may come from because we've lived through governments where you could have not been assertive or openly talk because it was, you would have been punished or in other words, taken care of. So I think it comes from that. I think when you live in Canada, I think there's freedom of expression and you can easily express yourself without worrying that something's gonna happen to you. So I think those the culture differences, change of environment also changes one's personality.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with you. Everything that comes as a norm for a culture or for a country or even for a person is the best response they have been able to formulate it at the time in response to everything that has happened to them. Even you see the people that have childhood trauma and they've gone through abuse or they have certain way of dealing, which was the best response they did at those years. That's what actually helped them and served them and helped them to survive. But now things has changed, and maybe the challenges they have to change, but they just stick to the old way of interacting with the world. So I totally agree. There is a reason for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe that's a good way to put it. Maybe at that time that was the best they could do, and moving forward things could change and people could be more assertive or share more about their experiences. What role does cultural heritage play in your sense of belonging in Canada?
It does play a big role. When I think about it, my sense of belonging, it comes from you feel a place is your home. You feel it like home. And I know a lot of immigrants might even be here for a long time, 20, 30, 40 years. They might not feel that sense of belonging. I think it's a decision. It's really a decision to make a place home. And takes whatever it takes to make a place home. I always make this example for the people that I work with. I say, when you change your home, let's say you move to a new home. Okay, so your home till this day has been this old home, and now you coming to this new home. If you always sit and think about the old home and how nice it was, and this is what is this new home, you can never feel this is your new home. But then you decide to furnish it, to put nice things, decorate it, make it beautiful, make it warm, make it comfy, create memories in that place, make it home. And you should make the same thing when you come to a new country. You made a decision to come here, so you have to make decision to make it home. You might miss back home. We all did and we all do. This is the same for everyone. But what we can do to create a new home, that's always home. It's not going to change. It's our home. It's a place we came from. Maybe we call it back home. It's a good way of putting that, right? Back home. But what we can do, so if we contribute to make this place a more beautiful place, decorate it, do good things, that's how we can create memories in this place to feel belong. So I would say contributing to society, the work we do in our community development, volunteering, everything that we spoke, it is a very important aspect of it. And I would say I think I gave you some example of how my cultural values, Iranian values, heritage helped me to do better in my community work. I would say the same thing the same thing comes here. For example, I have a lot of friends that are not Iranian, they are non-Iranian. I found these friends in the years I was in Canada. I think my warmness, my hospitality, my being open to mix and mingle with a lot of people and being a good friend and warm host, I think that really contributed to find this friend, and that helped me to feel belong here, because now I have more friends. Now I have a network here. So I think building on the strength that we bring from back home, and for everyone it might be different. People come from different, and they bring different gift and different assets with themselves. Finding those assets and those gifts and building on those can help us in creating a sense of belonging here in different ways.
Yeah. Your culture heritage clearly adds such richness to your sense of belonging here. And I also agree with you that, in my experience, I still have stronger attachment to where I was born, Afghanistan. And I still have strong attachment in terms of like that. I follow the news. I always look, what's going on. And I think it's it's similar to a lot of other newcomers and immigrants that I know that have spent a lot of time here, but they still have stronger connection to back home, even though they're not living there, they haven't visited. But I also agree, like for some newcomers, the transition to belonging, it prolongs in a way, because a lot of newcomers, especially when it comes to employment that I was talking earlier, a lot of newcomers and immigrants, and especially if it comes with skills, their experiences are not accepted or welcomed by the Canadian work environment. Mm-hmm. And for them, that sort of gives them a distasteful experience in the beginning, mm-hmm. and brings a lot of challenges. And I hope that we could change that, because for them to, get that employment, start helping their family, I think they will transition, they will have a better transition to their new life, and hopefully it will take them less time to have that sense of belonging, obviously there are other things such as community work and volunteering and other stuff, obviously, that plays a vital role in that sense of belonging, but I think this is also crucial. It's clear that your identity is an important part of your journey. Based on your experiences, what advice would you give to other newcomers navigating similar challenges? What advice would you give to newcomers who feel isolated and are hesitant to volunteer or get involved in their community?
I would say a lot of the things that I spoke to, building, really going out of their comfort zone, like going out of their cultural, even going to their cultural community that have already, been here for a while and have more connection. That's also helpful. But some people, they just stick to if they have like few family members or friends that they know from back home, they just want to get everything from them. That's not possible, because people are very busy with their life, and people sometimes they just don't have the skills, like what a settlement worker can offer to you. Never a family member that, they just have their day-to-day life and job. They can't give you that network or that opportunity. So I would say just go out and connect with different agencies that help newcomers. They connect with different networks. Go to your local community center. I don't know, if your local place of worship, I would say church, mosque, whatever is there. And connect with people when there are opportunities for volunteering. You can do work with people that you usually might not have them in your network or mix and mingle with. Just being with these people, working with them, getting to know them expands their horizon and their even perspective to life and what they can look for living in Canada. And then when I look at it, a lot of people who come here, specifically these days, they already have established life back home. Some people come as refugee, they're political or they're war, they push them to leave. But a lot of us, like for example, I had established life as a doctor back home, right? So it's not we just looking for an established life, because a lot of people might have had that back home, but is really looking for new ways of life, new perspective, new experiences. We have to remember, we have to remind ourselves sometimes that we came here not just to have a living. Of course, it's important to have a living and make the ends meet. But what really brought us here? Different experience, new perspective, new ways of life. And then we open up, sometimes we close ourselves off those ways just with our mindset. And it's difficult. It can be overwhelming as a newcomer. So I would say just going out and mix and mingle with whoever they can, learning from everyone that they can, and try to learn the language. That's really, really important. I think if people come here and they don't want to learn the language, I can't really justify that. If they didn't have a chance to learn it back home, okay, that I can understand. That's fine. But here, I think they should put every effort to learn the language, because if you don't learn language of the country, you're just literally cutting yourself off from all the networks, all the connection, all the opportunities. And I don't even find it respectful to not to try. And people's learning ability might be different. They might come at an older age, but if they try, at least they learn their basics. If they don't, might not be like very high end in their language ability. So I would say I really strongly recommend that they improve their language ability to be able to connect with other people, and also go out and be open to new learning, new connections, and new ways of life. Because I think that at the end of the day, that's why we came here. A lot of us, right? Which we could have lived back home, maybe more comfortably even. Right?
Yeah. I think sometimes it just takes the first step to feel connected. And as you were explaining that people have immigrated here for different reasons. But I just wanted to highlight something, especially when it comes to refugees or people coming from disproportionately economically from countries that are not financially doing well, or they're coming as refugees. Usually it's really hard for those families to send their elders or to learn English language. But I think we are very fortunate enough, especially, a good example of it, I see it here at our organization at North York Community House, that we're providing childcare services for newcomers that, and most of the time that's the biggest challenge for a lot of them. When I have conversation with them, they say we have kids and we can't go and learn English because I have to take care of my kids and my husband. They've recently immigrated here. He's working and I don't have the time to do it. But it's good to see that organizations are providing daycare services for people to come and learn the language. And I totally agree with you. The language does expand your sort of your experience and also get you out of that isolation mode. So, yeah. Moving on, how can newcomers balance the need to earn a living with the desire to engage in volunteer work that might help them integrate better?
I think we spoke about this a little bit, little bit. But I would say it's life. I think in life generally, even don't think about being an immigrant and having that need to we always need to have a living, earn a living, and provide for ourselves and our family. But I would say the more skill we find in time management, we can enjoy the life better. If women who have find a way to have a career and have their children and also have a life with their friend, they can enjoy more experiences in life. And that's not easy. It comes with a lot of sacrifices. It comes with a lot of learning and expanding. As a human, we have always learn and expand. And if we stop that process at some point, our ability becomes limited to enjoy our life or have different experiences, right? So I would say it's not really different for a newcomer. I know immigration is a very intense situation. I've experienced it myself. I know how it feels like. But again, just reminding ourselves that, this shall pass like everything else in life. And we have to stay hopeful, stay grounded, and, and think that things will work out, and it will. For everyone you look at everyone who has been, finally they find something, a job, something that can, give them a living or some earning. And to improve that, we need to find new ways. And volunteering is a good way of that. Connecting with people that might not have the opportunity to work for or work with at this point, but maybe we can access to them in a volunteer basis and learn from them and connect with them and build network with them. So those are the things that I think really justify the need for. And again, we can do what we can. This is the approach we have in our community work. I say it is our responsibility in community development, community engagement, to engage people with any amount of time that they have. Not everyone can make time to come to, I would say, board meetings or meetings every week or every month for 3-4 hours. People have, life, children, this, that. But maybe they can come to a half an hour short meeting, or they can sign a petition, or they can donate for a cause. We have to engage people with whatever ability and time that they have. This is our responsibility. And I think people should start with what they can do. If they can do, go once every 2 months for 2 hours and do something, or help a community center or whatever. There are so many opportunities for volunteer. It's not easy. I remember what you said, but it's possible to find some. Start with something and bring a new perspective. Maybe that new perspective, find a better job, or enjoy their job more. Or when you enjoy, you create more. You make better money. When you have good mood, everything else starts opening up to you. So just make it enjoy, make it fun. Don't make it like a duty or responsibility. I have to make it fun. Something that really gives you something that you don't have in your day-to-day access to. How you can access to new experience, new thing. Just look at it in a fun and engaging way, and try to do with whatever you have. If you can do it twice a year, half a day, twice a year, start with that, and then see how much more you can do. So don't make it like a big, huge, another task that you have to attend to and make. If you make it with that, everything, like with everything else that we have to, it becomes difficult. I would say make it fun, make it engaging, and start with what you can.
Yeah. I mean, it's true, finding that balance is tough, but your advice is practical and empowering. And I totally agree with you that that we have to make the situation and the environment that so that people could come and do with whatever they have. We had similar conversation in our project Journeys to Active Citizenship. We were making civic engagement curriculum for newcomers and immigrants. We're saying that we're doing our part, like people are doing our part. They're engaging, they're learning, they're acquiring new skills and tools. But it's also the responsibility of the government as well to come from the other side. And they have to do their bits as well to further that engagement. So I totally agree with you. Your advice for newcomers is invaluable. Building a support network is often a key part of making those connections. Can you share more about how you built a support network in Toronto? What role did this network play in your journey?
I think I put a lot of time and effort in this, because I do believe, I always have believed in the power of network and connection that you have. I remember that when in old days we had these phone books that we had everyone's phone number in there, night, everything is in our cell phone. I looked at my phone as my most important asset always. I said, the more numbers, the more connection I have, the richer and the wealthier I am here. That's always I've looked at my my network and the people. And they, even in business, I said, your network is equal to your network. So I would say I always place a very important, a very huge value on have. So I spend a lot of time and energy in my very first year, and I always keep doing it. But I think I had a momentum. I created a momentum the first maybe 3, 4, 5 years of me being in Canada. Even that the first 2 years that I think I didn't remove my shoes. I was so busy with 3, 4 part-time jobs. And then also volunteering for the places that I eventually wanted to end up and work with. I still made time to, make friendship with new people that I met. I invited them. If I knew they have an occasion, I tried to go out for their occasion. If I had money, I invited them for their birthday. If I didn't have money, I tried to at least say happy birthday, do something, contribute to something they are doing. Just make time to get to know them and become friends with those that I really like to be closer. Not everyone was a friend. Some were just professional contacts. But the people that I felt more closer and I liked more, I tried to get close. And sometimes it's not easy. When you want to get close to someone from a different culture, cultures are different. I have a Scottish friend. We are totally two opposite sides, because Scottish culture very inward. They don't want warm up. The opposite are Iranian. You say your life stories. In the first time you meet someone in the bus, you tell them, they're not like that. Like it's for me like a warm, bubbly person with her, but she brings different qualities, right? Different qualities. That was very interesting. So sometimes I just felt, why she doesn't warm up to me like. But then I say that's how they are. That's her nature. And then as time passes, she warms up. But it took a few years, to be honest, to open up. But she was always there with me. She helped me with many things that I needed help with. So the friendship works. Everyone brought their part. So I would say building friendship with people who are different cultures is not an easy thing, but it's very rewarding. I'm just sharing from my personal experience. If you put that time and energy, and then professional network is usually easier. You just go to networking, or you do your part, whatever they want from you. But I think everything that I got, I really got it from my network. My first job was from my volunteering, references that I got from my network, and then same thing continued in every job that I got. Network, references, volunteer, people who recommended me, showed me new opportunities. And the same thing in the business that I started. I built the same business network. I did put the same time and effort when I went to business network to create those relationships. I think those are the most important things that really helped me to get anything that I have here. I would say I got because of the networks that I got.
It's amazing how important that network was in supporting your journey. And my friend has another word for it. He calls it social capital. So the more people you know helps you along the way, whether it is for employment purposes or for just having a social circle or getting out of isolation. I think they play a crucial role. How important is it for newcomers to seek out and build connections within both their culture communities and broader Canadian society?
This is really, really important, and thank you for asking this question, because sometimes, as we come and we start living in a new country and getting used to new ways of life and interacting with people, we feel disconnected from our original culture or original values. So it's very important to go back to them and make sure we stay connected to that. And that's through, staying in touch with our cultural community, with our ethnic community, attending our events, the occasion that is important. For me, the way I do it, I think since I've come here, I even celebrate my cultural occasion even harder than what I did back home. And I'm hearing is the same thing. Like here, you feel you just need to stick to those things and stay connected. For example, we have our New Year Nowruz, which is on March 20th or 21st, depending on the calendar, first day of spring. As you know, it's 13 days of celebration. It starts like from the first day, which is the New Year's Day, Nowruz, first day of spring. And it goes until the 13th day of spring, which is a nature day. We go out in nature and we picnic with family and everyone. So there are lots of tradition even leading to that New Year. We have the Charshambe Suri, which is the last Tuesday of year, and we lit this like fire, and we jump from fire, and we give our kind of paleness and yellow color and everything to fire and get the glow from the fire. Those are the just wishing for a new year with health and all the good happening. So there's so many tradition around that. And I try to do all of this tradition like religiously. I do it even if I'm so sick, or I get up and I put together all the elements for the Nowruz spread, Hafseen. I always do it, and I make sure my nephews, I have 2 nephews, they also learn this tradition, because I know how this tradition helped me to boost my mood when my mood was down. When this New Year, I just naturally get a boost of health, boost of mood. It really, really helps you. And then the wisdom that it brings. Last year what I did, I actually went to some of my network. I said I wanted to teach this celebration and this culture in high school, and they invited me to high school, to 2 high school in New York region. So I went and I showed my slide of what we do and what's happening. I taught that to new generation, because I know how it has helped me to go through hardship, even this celebration and this tradition. And I want the new generation also have it. It doesn't matter. This high school wasn't only Persian. They had some Persian students, and they had a lot of non-Persian students, I think 40, 60 kind of. And everyone the youth were very, very interested to learn. So that's my way of staying in touch with my culture and tradition, and also my friends from my, and they are from the same ethnic background for me. But at the same time, it's important to stay in touch with our new home, where the country that we decided to make our new home. And again, the same thing, building new friendship, going to respecting the tradition that comes from there. I have two New Years to celebrate. One is, I would say New Year's are January 1st, and then, I celebrate Christmas, not in a religious way, just as a way of bringing family together and thinking about the story of Jesus and everything that he brought to this world. And so I enjoy that. And I celebrate everything that I can. If I can do Diwali, if I can do Hanukkah, I celebrate everything because there is wisdom behind all those things. It comes from a very, I would say, generation, thousands of years of wisdom. There are meanings behind it. And I try to learn that meaning, see how it connects me to nature, to universe in general, respecting all those things, being part of those celebration, the days that is commemorated here in Canada, all those things I try to learn about the history of indigenous people. If we have, November 11 is anything that is a landmark in Canadian society, I try to stay connected to those things, as well as, of general values in my workplace and the things that I've learned here. I value those things equally important. Our work is double, I would say. Our work is double.
Yeah, that's such a crucial point. Having a foot in both worlds really enhances the experience. I think Canada in general, like where we live, we're fortunate. I mean, I could say fortunate, but we're fortunate enough to that we have the environment that we can freely and openly celebrate our culture, and we can also celebrate other cultures. And most communities, they're celebrating theirs, and we're learning from them, and we're expanding our experiences. That can also help in sort of like transitioning to a new place and feeling or having a sense of belonging.
Journey Maps is brought to you by Journeys to Active Citizenship, a unique collaborative project that co-designs curriculum and tools for civic engagement programs for and with immigrants and refugees. Learn more at journeystoactivecitizenship.ca.